Welcome to the ColivingCircle podcast. I'm the host, Paul Burke, and the founder of ColivingCircle, the website where you should find your next co-living space. I am here with Jade. Jade, I'll be honest, I don't know how to say your last name, even though we've known each other for a while.
Brandais.
Brandais. Okay. We're here with Jade Brandais, who is the founder of the Renge App, and she'll talk about that a little bit. And she's also a member at Treehouse, which is a co-living community in Hollywood. And we have some of my experience visiting and having Sunday dinner with you written about on our website. But thanks for joining me, Jade.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first of all, let's start with, because I think co-living is still a very, very new concept. And so even most of my friends don't really know what it is. So tell us how you came across Treehouse and co-living in general.
So I first heard about co-living because I used to work at a WeWork, which is a co-working space. And WeWork had started their own co-living space called We Live. And the way that co-living works is you have your own unit. So for example, at WeWork, you have your own office, but you have a lot of common space. So you share a kitchen and, living room type open space, like a rooftop, with the other offices. So you're essentially paying less for more. So the same thing with co-living. So I had found out about co-living through We Live. When my lease was up last June, I was looking for a co-living space because I loved my experience at WeWork, and they didn't have a We Live in Los Angeles. So I looked up other co-living spaces. Treehouse was one of the first ones to pop up on Google. And just based on their photos, I knew immediately, oh yeah, this is where I'm going to live. Their photos, their rendering was ridiculously nice.
Yeah, I mean, even when I first saw the space, it was like, the word I would use is magical.
Yes.
It's insane.
It definitely lives up to its name of a treehouse.
Yeah. It's like a basically big adult treehouse that's like modern design and elegant and beautiful and all that. So basically you came across Treehouse and you knew from your experience with co-working that like you like this idea of sort of like shared economy of you have your own private space, but you get to share with others. What was it like when you moved in? Was it a big change from, how you'd been renting before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So before I was at a very corporate apartment complex, and they tried to build together community. They'd have events, twice a month. They'd have coffee every morning, a common little lounge area, rooftop area, pool. But for the 3 years that I lived there, my neighbors and I never really got past small talk. And it was crazy. Sometimes I would see them every single morning at coffee, but there was never really a deeper bond there. Sorry, my cat.
We're going to use your cat there as the screen shot for this episode.
Her name's Kit Kat. So, I mean, the biggest difference was the intention of people moving in there. So, of course, it was great, having so many more common spaces than just a coffee area and a lounge and a pool and a rooftop. I mean, we have everything except the pool. We have all of that plus, a theater and an art studio and, a dining hall kitchen where we all have Sunday dinners together. But the biggest difference is that when people move in there, people come there with the intent of wanting to be friends with their neighbors. A lot of times in apartment buildings, people just like to keep to themselves. I mean, maybe you become friends with some of your neighbors. I don't know how long it takes to build that friendship, but there's always kind of this awkward, what's their intention behind meeting. And some people just want to keep it casual as acquaintances. And so it's hard to kind of break that barrier. But here, at Treehouse, there was no barrier to break. Like we all knew coming into it that we all wanted to be friends.
I think that's interesting. So like if you go on all these co-living websites, they talk about like intentional living. And I think that's sort of a hard thing to define, but I feel like that's a good way to define it. Is it just people who are interested in making friends, Like, is that what intentional means? Like when you enter a community like that, like you better be open to meeting people and developing like real relationships.
For a space specifically like Treehouse, yes. I'm not sure about the other co-living spaces because even in their application process, which is pretty lengthy, it talks about, you know, what you want to see at a community, what community means to you, how you would use the communal spaces. And we even, like I said, have Sunday night dinners, which I think is unique to Treehouse. And so it actually doesn't make sense to move into a place like that if you don't want to make friends.
Right. Right.
Especially, you know, Sunday night dinners, that would be really weird if you didn't want to partake in that. It's as far as intentional living, yeah, I mean, everyone kind of comes with that same intent when they move in. And the difference, other than just looking for friends, it's specifically because of their tagline and because of you know, the pillars that they I guess kind of promote, such as candidacy, transparency, community, etc. It's more than just, hey, here's a buddy that I want to hang out with and get drunk with. You know, it's not that. It's more, how can we grow together as a community? How can we grow together in ourselves? How can we inspire others and vice versa? So there are a lot of artistic outlets in this space as well. There's a little photo area. There's a little art studio area. They're building a recording studio. Like I said, we have, or I don't know if I mentioned this, but they have a theater in the lounge where you can screen projects if you're, you know, in the film industry. And since we're in the heart of Hollywood and right across the street from Netflix, there's a lot of filmmakers in the building. So it's definitely a place to not just be friends, but to really collaborate with each other. So one of the friends that I made at Treehouse, we're actually writing a script together, and I'm not a writer and he doesn't work in film. And, you know, I'd stopped working in film for many years now, but this is just kind of a fun project that we're both doing. So it's stuff like that that makes this co-living space really magical. Some of the other spaces, I didn't tour them, but I looked at their site. It just seemed like they were just trying to put people together in one venue with common events. But this takes it a little bit further than just common events. It's really about building the relationships, like deeper connections, you know, beyond just a common place to live.
Right. And when I took a tour, I feel like it was such a perfect place if you are like an entrepreneur or creative, like you said. I mean, if you want to rent a studio in LA, that's not cheap. If you want to do a nice photo shoot or any of those things, that's not cheap. And I mean, so if you can live there, and from, you know, the pricing available on their website and stuff, it sounds like it's around like $2K a month for a private room, and they have bathrooms as well, right? But if you get access to a recording studio, a library, a co-working space, all of that, that's like a really good damn deal, honestly, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it includes, you know, all the utilities. It includes all of your like kitchen supplies if you live in one of the common spaces. So like paper towels, trash bags, soap. All the laundry is free. All the laundry supplies are also not free, but included in your rent. And Sunday night community dinners. The food is always free every Sunday. And they always make so much, so there's always leftovers, which is great.
And the one that we had was amazing.
Yes.
That was really good.
The Italian night. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. No, sorry. That wasn't Italian.
That was Mexican night.
It was Mexican night. I'm getting them all confused.
So you talked a little bit about collaboration, and I think that's one of the coolest things too, is how, you know, co-living basically brings all these smart, creative people together. And just naturally, when you get people like that together, they usually want to do stuff, right? And so you're doing film writing. What's sort of the demographics of people who live in Treehouse? You said a lot of them are filmmakers. You're an entrepreneur. I met someone who's a software engineer. What else are like the professions and kind of people who are there?
It's actually pretty diverse, which is kind of cool. I mean, we have everyone there from the ages of like 22 to 42. We do have, screenwriters, filmmakers, event planners, poetry, like poetry readers, I guess you call them, but they do poetry, which is awesome. The healthcare professional field, entrepreneurs, and a few software engineers. I mean, everyone comes from a very different background, not just filmmaking. And then when I say a lot of them are filmmakers, it seems like, the software engineer that you met, that's something that they do on the side as a hobby. Just, I think, because we're in LA and Hollywood, and it's it's something that's very attractive to most people that live here. You can't really escape it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all different types of artists. And I forgot, we do have a lady who started a charity for homeless women. So it's really across the board. Which is kind of exciting because we're always learning from each other as well. There's actually one guy who works in solar panel marketing, and he's helping out, one of my roommates, because she is starting up her own photography business, and he's helping her how to market her business. And it's, in that sense, it's more than just co-living. It's community. It's how do we help each other out? And there's no want or, kind of need for, hey, I'm helping you out, so give me something in return. It's not like that. It's people helping each other out because they really just genuinely want to.
Right. Yeah. I think I think to me, that's the coolest part about it. Let's talk about something which is, sort of an unfortunate situation, but
yeah,
I'm quarantining from my home in Los Angeles. You're quarantining, not at Treehouse. You're in Orange County, right?
yeah.
What is co-living like right now amidst all this coronavirus stuff? We wrote about it on our blog a little bit, but now is not a great time for the co-living concept, given how much of it is community-based, which is generally an amazing thing. But when you have people in close contacts, obviously that's not great. What is sort of the scene over there?
So there are definitely positives and negatives to co-living in general. During this time, I, like you said, I left Treehouse almost 2 weeks ago because of everything that's happening, and luckily I'm fortunate enough to be able to live with my parents at this time, who live only a couple hours away from LA, and have extra space in their house for me to be completely isolated from the rest of the world right now. So there's the negative side of co-living, where obviously you can't really quarantine, or at least not effectively.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very good chance that if one person gets it at the treehouse, there's a very good chance that many others will as well. Everyone is sharing common spaces, and even just having roommates. If you have a roommate and that roommate's constantly going to the grocery store, there's a chance you might get it, versus a much lower chance of getting it than if you lived like in a studio. So there's that aspect of it, where just physically it's difficult to quarantine. Emotionally, people would actually say it's a great place to live, because people are connected now more than ever. No one's real, a lot of people are working from home, so no one's, leaving the building for extended periods of time. For the most part, everyone's in the building, unless they're going to the grocery store, someplace essential. And there's also a rooftop, which is great, to get some sun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super important during a time like this. I know some people don't even take a walk at this, during this quarantine, and I can tell it can degrade people's psyche. So to be able to have and see people and talk to people on a daily basis, in the community spaces like the dining hall and the little coffee shop we have, which is, our equivalent of Friends Central Perk, the show Friends, that is. It's a great time for co-living. People are isolated but not feeling alone. But if you have an underlying, physical ailment or whatnot, or underlying immune problem, it may not be the safest.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. But yeah, I think that sums it up great. Let's move along to a couple questions I think that are just like more prominent as far as how co-living is affecting, how we live, how we rent, how we socialize. So two questions. One, would you qualify yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
I thought I was an ambivert. Moving into the treehouse has taught me that I'm very much an extrovert.
Okay.
I had no idea, but apparently I unwind by talking to people. So being at the treehouse was very, very helpful. There was always someone to talk to, always, whether it's the middle of the night, although I'm rarely up in the middle of the night, but or all throughout the day. There's never a shortage of deep conversations to be had.
Okay, and then my second question is, there's a lot of headlines about loneliness being an epidemic, and while it's probably not that, there is just in general a lot of loneliness, and I do think smartphones elevate loneliness to a certain extent. Do you think co-living solves or has some sort of positive effect on loneliness?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. It's like night and day, living even so right before that, I was living in a house, when my lease was up before, Treehouse had opened, I was living in a house with three of my, good friends. And, it's not the same. It's just not. And that's already living with friends and, in a house. There's something very unique about co-living and having all these different diverse personalities come together, like I said, with the intention of wanting to build something together, not just projects like scripts, but even just building friendships. There are friends that I'll probably keep and have long after all of us have maybe left the treehouse, if people leave the treehouse. It helps the loneliness in the sense that there's just not just always someone to talk to, but they just start to feel like family. And it's kind of hard to describe how or when that happens. But it's the most magical moments are when you have not something that's on the books and, in the events calendar, although that can be great too. Because we do have a lot of hosted events, or at least we used to before Corona. But it's just, hey, I feel like getting a coffee at this time, and seeing who else is in the coffee shop. And it's a giant house, really. So it does kind of feel like family in that way. I mean, you're seeing the same people every day, getting to know people on a deeper level than just small talk, and really understanding, what people's dreams and aspirations and fears are, and them being as equally interested about you as you are them. And so I think it's a wonderful, wonderful solution to kind of screen time addiction and loneliness. I think it's the wave of the future, especially as new generations kind of enter into, the urban living. I think it's how all urban living should actually be done. Because at the same time, let's say if you're more of an introvert, you do have the privacy of your own room, your own bathroom, your own apartment. The only difference is that you don't have a living room, because the idea is that the whole house is your living room.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I feel like, and I got that from, going to Sunday dinner with you, that this was going to be the future. And there's so many positive things about it. Aside from the coronavirus and its negative impact that it is having, as well as you said, there are maybe some positives as well. What would you say is, like, who is co-living not for, if anybody? And what are some possible downsides or negative things about co-living, coronavirus aside?
Yeah, Corona kind of puts a little dent in it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's for, like I said, for introverts, they can still enjoy the space and have their own privacy. But I guess it's not really built for, well, I'd say extreme introverts who just don't like people at all. The people that don't want to go to a Sunday night dinner, the people who really love their own autonomy and don't like, saying hi to people. I know my cousin, he helped me move in, and we were in the elevator, and as we were leaving, he said, yeah, this is definitely your kind of place. But I feel like that type of person is extremely rare. I would say it's also right now not for children. We do have a lot of kids going through this phase, but I think as more and more get built, I think there will be more that are a bit more family friendly.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that in one of our previous podcasts with Kaylin, he talks about is definitely sort of multi-family co-living, and almost back to co-housing, which is like an old sort of way people live in sort of hippie towns and originally from Denmark, I found out for some random reason. But yeah, okay, that's awesome. Do you have any other final comments on co-living or Treehouse that you want to share?
Definitely check it out. It's treehouse.collive or .community, I believe. It's one of those. Even if you just Google Treehouse Coliving, they do a pretty good job of explaining what it's like to live there. And I think once you check it out for yourself, you'll understand what I'm talking about and why I feel it's so magical. And as soon as Corona is over, the cool thing about Treehouse is they are more than happy to welcome visitors into Sunday night dinner. Like, you don't even have to just know someone to visit the dinner. Just get in touch with the community director, and she'll invite you to dinner when this is all over, and you can experience the family unit for yourself. And the cool thing too is that you may feel like you're coming into kind of a clique, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Every time someone new comes in, we have this big welcome party for them, and we make everyone feel very much included. So not to worry if you're thinking that, people are already a family, and how do you, kind of break into that? It's once you're in, you're already part of the family. And also there's a Slack channel between everyone. So again, you're invited into that, and it's just like, one big happy family at Treehouse.
Yeah. And then I can't let you finish the interview without giving you the opportunity to plug Renge. So tell us about Renge.
So Renge is a meet in real life app, which, because of coronavirus, we are strongly recommending that you do not do that at that time. But you can still network with people on the apps. So you can tell people what you're looking for and offering specifically, especially during this time. If you have editing skills or you need an editor, let's say you're starting an online class for your workout, whatever you need help in, specifically state what you're looking for, and you'll be matched up with the right person. So stop spamming a bunch of people online or on LinkedIn. You can actually start meeting and connecting with the right people.
Perfect. And you're going to provide me with a link so people can download it, right?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, Jade, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we may do another podcast some days. Who knows?
Awesome. That'd be great.